Today we're going to add some damage overlays. So I'm in my HUD and I'm going to go ahead and add an image. So I'm going to go to UI and image, and I'm going to go ahead and rename this health damage overlay. So this will display whenever my health is low. So you can see here the image shows up. It's really tiny, so we're going to adjust it so it fills up the entire area of the screen. So for my case, that's 1920 by 1080. So you can see here now it covers everything. We don't want it to be white, so we're going to go ahead and change it with our overlay image. So this looks good. I made this ahead of time, and you can see that it's actually showing up above our other elements. So we're going to move this higher up in the hierarchy. That way it's behind everything, just like this. So that looks good. We're going to go ahead and duplicate this because we also want an overlay for when the oxygen is low. And I do want them to be different overlays so the player can immediately tell whether their health is low or if their oxygen is low. And they will be color coordinated. So pink will be for health and blue will be for oxygen. So I'm going to go ahead and change the image for this one to be the oxygen overlay. And you can see it's the exact same image, just a different color. And here they both are in our hierarchy. So we could just turn off the visibility, but for our purposes for this, we're actually going to change the transparency. So eventually we'll be able to slowly ease in and out of this overlay when the player takes damage and when they heal or get more oxygen. So it'll look something like that. Alright, so we're going to start off with them both transparent. And we're going to go ahead and head into our scripts. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the health script, and we're going to do the health overlay first. So for this, I've already set up a health bar, a health system. So we're going into that, and we're just going to add in our overlay. So at the very top, we're going to start off by adding a reference to that image that we just made, the health damage overlay. So I'm going to do public image, and then I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it damage overlay to be easy. And I'm going to personally make some notes because I am working with other people on this project. I want them to be able to understand everything that I'm doing as well. And also in case I forget, I want to know what I need to put there. So that's going to be my image that I just made. I'm also going to create a color variable, and that's going to be our alpha color. This alpha color will basically be how we access the transparency of the image. That way we can actually make it more visible or less visible by changing that value. Alright, so that's that. And again, before you add anything with image, you do need that UI setting, so just make sure that's up there. I already have it, so we're good to go. In our start, we're going to go ahead and set everything up because we need to let Unity know what our alpha color is going to be, otherwise it'll just be empty, it'll be blank, it'll be 0 maybe. So we're going to actually set it up. So again, I always try to make notes just to make it easy for myself and for others. Here we go. We're going to just set it equal to the damage overlay color. So that's how it'll be set up. In my update, I'm just going to check to see if the health is low. And for my case, I'm going to say health is low when it's 10. And that's because our total health is 100, so that's 10%. So you can see here, I'm making it less than or equal to 10. So when health is 10 or less, that's when we're going to display this. So we're going to start by getting our alpha color, and we're going to do .a. And that's basically the transparency setting, our alpha. And 1 is going to make it less transparent, it's going to make it more opaque. And then we're going to go ahead and change the actual color for our overlay to this value. And again, here's some notes just to make everything easy for future me and for teammates. So this is going to make it less transparent. It's going to make it more opaque. That way it's actually visible when health is low. So if we just do this, it won't change back once we regain health. So we're also going to need another statement. So this is going to be else if. And if health is above 10, so not equal to 10, we just want it to be 10. And I do need to change that later, but here we go. We want it to be more transparent. And I'm just copying and pasting what I had earlier. And that's because I just want it to be the exact same, just instead of being less transparent, I want it to be more transparent. So changing it to 0 will do that. So here in my scene, I'm adding the damage overlay to that value that I created so it connects. And then let's test it out. So right here you can see my current health is 100. If I change it to 10, to 50, it won't work. If I change it to 1, it will. So that's low health 1. If I change it to 10, it shows up. If it's above 10, like 12, 13, it doesn't, it disappears. So that's exactly what we want for now. Later we're going to change it so it eases in, and it does this in a slightly different way, but for now this is good just to have it set up and working. So for our oxygen overlay, we're going to do the exact same thing. So I'm really just going to copy and paste it, and then change the variable names as needed, and change the notes just so I can make sure I understand it. So damage overlay, I'm going to drag that picture in. I'm going to have an alpha color for this one as well. Just going to update my notes, that way it reflects the proper thing. So for this value, I'm going to drag in and drop the oxygen overlay. We still need to initialize it in start. So again, we need to make sure we don't forget that. We don't really need to change anything here. It's the same. And then again, in update, we're going to go ahead and have that if and else if statements. Before that, I am going to make a little note just because it is just randomly an update. I want to make sure I have a note for what this section is. So we're just going to make a note that this is actually what displays the overlay for the damage. Right, and then I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that into the oxygen. Again, I'm just going to put in the update. It'll probably be in some other place later on, but this is just to make sure it's up and working. And you can see here my variables are angry. That's because I don't have current health in this. I have current oxygen. So I'm just going to make that quick change. Everything else should work. Everything else is the same. Okay, make sure I save both of these scripts just in case. And let's make sure the oxygen's working now. Again, in my game manager, I do need to connect that image though. So my damage overlay, there's a spot for it. Drag and drop, just like before. And let's go ahead and see if this works. So you can see my oxygen naturally goes down, and that's just because I have that auto depleting. But if I do manually change that value, you can see when it's below 10, it appears, and when it's above 10, it disappears. So it works the exact same as the health one. But now it's showing the proper image, the blue one. So far that's exactly what I want. I could stop here, but I am going to change that 10 from just being a number into a variable. And this will make it easier if I want to play around with the numbers later on. That way I don't have to hunt through the script and find every time I put 10. So I'm going to make a variable called low health, and then I'm going to go ahead and set this equal to 10. So you could initialize and start, but I'm just going to set it into just a number. I'm going to put 10 because that's 10%. That's what I want it to be for now. You can have it do some math to always be 10% of your total, but for now I'm just going to put 10. So where I had 10 before, that's where I'm going to replace it with this variable, low health. That way when the health is low, it will change and it'll work properly. Same thing for the oxygen. I also need a low oxygen. And since oxygen is also out of 100, it will also be 10. So later on I'll be able to change and play around with those numbers to see if that's really where I want it to be. But for now that feels like a good number. Alright, so that looks good. Let's save both of those scripts. And then let's test it one more time just to make sure everything's still working how we want it to be. We don't want to change things and then forget to check. Also make sure that in your HUD manager they are set. For some reason the low health was at 0, even though in the script I did set it to 10, so that was kind of weird, but that's okay. That's something you can just make sure it's set up properly once it's actually attached to a game object in your scene. So it does say 10 in my script. It says it on the game manager, so I think we're good. Yep, both low health and low oxygen are 10. Let's go ahead and check it. So for my health, let's say my health is 1. Okay, it shows up. If it's 10, it shows up. If it's above 10, it goes away.